Most people think wealth is built through big wins, higher salaries, sudden breakthroughs, or lucky investments. But the truth is far less glamorous and far more powerful. Wealth is often born in silence, in discipline, in the small decisions no one applauds. It starts with what you do with the smallest amount of money in your hand right now. Imagine two people earning the same income. One spends everything, chasing comfort and instant pleasure. The other quietly sets aside a small portion every single day, no matter how little it seems. At first, the difference is invisible, but over time the gap becomes impossible to ignore. One is stuck in a cycle of survival, the other is building freedom brick by brick. This is the philosophy often taught by Jim Rohn, that success is not a result of occasional greatness but consistent small disciplines repeated over time. The way you treat small savings reveals how you will handle big wealth. Stay with this video until the end because you will discover not just how to save money but how to transform small savings into a system that quietly builds wealth in the background of your life. These lessons are simple, but if applied, they can change your financial future forever. Lesson 1. Pay yourself first. The concept of paying yourself first is not merely a financial tactic, it is a fundamental shift in psychology that separates the wealthy from the perpetually struggling. In the standard economic model followed by the masses, the equation for monthly life is income minus expenses equals savings. The fatal flaw in this logic is that human desires are infinitely expansive. If you wait until the end of the month to see what is left over, you will almost invariably find that your expenses have risen to meet your income, leaving the savings variable at zero. By reversing the equation to income minus savings equals expenses, you treat your future self as the most important creditor you have. You wouldn't dream of ignoring your landlord or the electric company, yet most people habitually foreclose on their own future dreams by giving everyone else their money first. When you pay yourself first, you are making a profound statement about your self-worth and your long-term priorities. It is an act of defiance against the consumerist culture that demands your immediate attention and your immediate capital. This practice builds a buffer of peace that changes how you interact with the world. When you have a dedicated portion of your income tucked away before the world can get its hands on it, you stop operating from a place of scarcity and begin operating from a place of power. This isn't about being stingy or hoarding, it's about ensuring that the primary beneficiary of your labor is you rather than the various corporations and service providers vying for your paycheck. The beauty of this lesson lies in its adaptability. Many people argue they cannot afford to save because their cost of living is too high, but this is often a failure of imagination and discipline rather than math. If your income was suddenly reduced by 5% due to a tax hike or a company-wide pay cut, you would find a way to survive. You would cut back on subscriptions, dine out less, or find efficiencies in your household. Paying yourself first is essentially a self-imposed wealth tax that you levy for your own benefit. Starting with even a negligible amount, say 1% or 5%, is enough to rewire your brain. The goal is to make the act of saving as automatic and invisible as a breathing rhythm, ensuring that your wealth grows in the background while you navigate the complexities of daily life. Furthermore, paying yourself first creates an environment of healthy financial pressure. When you remove your savings from your checking account the moment your paycheck hits, you are forced to be more creative and disciplined with the remaining balance. This forced scarcity often leads to better spending habits because it clarifies the difference between needs and wants. You begin to realize that much of what you thought was essential was actually just convenient. Over time, as your career progresses and your income increases, the habit remains fixed, while others fall victim to lifestyle creep, where every raise is immediately swallowed by a bigger car or a larger home. The person who pays themselves first captures that surplus and converts it into lasting freedom. Lesson 2. Respect small money. In a world of get-rich-quick schemes and viral success stories, the humble penny has lost its luster. However, the second lesson of wealth is that the way you handle the smallest unit of currency is a perfect reflection of how you will handle the largest. Respecting small money is about recognizing the inherent potential in every dollar. We often dismiss small expenses or small savings as insignificant because they don't seem to move the needle in the short term. We think, what does it matter if I spend $5 here or $10 there? But this mindset is the death by 1,000 cuts for your financial future. Wealth is a mountain built of individual grains of sand. If you disregard the grains, you will never possess the mountain. Treating small amounts of money with respect is essentially a form of character training. Financial management is a skill that must be honed through repetition and attention to detail. If a person cannot manage a budget of $2,000 a month with precision and care, giving them $20,000 a month will only magnify their existing poor habits. Small money is your laboratory. It is where you learn the mechanics of cash flow, the discipline of delayed gratification, and the power of compounding. When you track your small expenses and find ways to optimize them, you are proving to yourself that you are a competent steward of resources. This stewardship is a prerequisite for the arrival of greater abundance. Every small amount of money you save is a seed that carries the DNA of a forest. If you eat the seed, the forest can never exist. When you look at a $5 bill, you shouldn't just see $5 worth of purchasing power today. You should see the potential for $50 or $100 in the future if that money were invested. Respecting small money means valuing the future version of that money. It requires a shift from a consumer mindset to an investor mindset. The consumer sees a latte, the investor sees a fractional share of a company that pays dividends. This doesn't mean living a life of miserable deprivation, but it does mean acknowledging that no amount of money is too small to be treated with intention. Finally, respecting small money protects you from the leakage that prevents most people from building wealth. Most people don't go broke because of one giant catastrophic purchase. They go broke because of hundreds of tiny unexamined choices. By bringing awareness to the small stuff, you plug the holes in your financial bucket. This awareness creates a sense of control and confidence. You stop wondering where your money went at the end of the month because you directed every cent to a specific purpose. When you respect the small, the large tends to take care of itself, as the habits required to save $10 are exactly the same habits required to save 10,000. Lesson 3: Consistency beats intensity. The human brain is wired to seek out the big win, the high-intensity effort that yields a massive transformation. We see this in fitness, where people crush themselves at the gym for a week and then quit. And we see it in finance, where people try to save big one month only to spend it all the next. But wealth is not a sprint, it is an ultra-marathon. The third lesson teaches us that consistency is the engine of progress. A person who saves a modest fixed amount every single month for 20 years will almost always outperform the person who tries to save large erratic chunks of money whenever they feel motivated. Intensity is emotional and fleeting, consistency is disciplined and permanent. Momentum is the secret source of financial success. When you save consistently, you are building a psychological groove that becomes harder to break over time. In the beginning, the results of your consistency are invisible. After 3 months of small savings, your bank account doesn't look much different and it's easy to feel discouraged. This is the valley of disappointment where most people give up. However, consistency allows the mathematics of compounding to do its heavy lifting. Like a snowball rolling down a hill, the initial turns are slow and add very little mass, but as long as the ball keeps rolling, it eventually reaches a critical mass where it grows exponentially. If you stop the ball to rest or because you're bored, you lose all that accumulated kinetic energy. Consistency also removes the burden of decision-making. If you have to decide to save every time you get paid, you are relying on your willpower, which is a finite and unreliable resource. Some days you will feel generous toward your future. Other days you will feel stressed and want to treat yourself to a shopping spree. By making saving a consistent automated habit, you remove your feeling from the equation. You are no longer deciding to save, you are simply following the system you built. This automation reduces decision fatigue and ensures that your wealth building continues even during the months when your motivation is at its lowest. The system becomes the master, and you become the beneficiary. Furthermore, a consistent approach to money allows you to weather the inevitable storms of life. Markets go up and down, and economies fluctuate, but a consistent saver practices what is known as dollar-cost averaging. By putting the same amount of money into the market or your savings vehicle every month, you naturally buy more when prices are low and less when prices are high. You stop trying to time the world and instead focus on time in the world. This steadiness creates a profound sense of emotional stability. You are no longer a victim of the news cycle or your own temporary impulses. You are a person with a plan, moving toward a destination one consistent step at a time. Lesson 4. Turn savings into growth. Savings in and of themselves are a defensive measure. They provide safety, liquidity, and a cushion against disaster. However, to build true wealth and achieve financial freedom, you must transition from a defensive posture to an offensive one. This is the fourth lesson. Money that sits idle is money that is dying. Due to the invisible tax of inflation, the purchasing power of a dollar tucked under a mattress or left in a zero-interest checking account diminishes every single year. To truly pay yourself, you must ensure that your money is working at least as hard as you did to earn it. You must transform your dead savings into living capital by seeking out growth opportunities. The shift from saving to investing is the moment you move from being a laborer to being a business owner. When you invest your savings, whether in stocks, real estate, bonds, or your own education, you are hiring your dollars to go out and fetch more dollars. This creates a feedback loop known as the virtuous cycle of wealth. Initially, you work for money, then you save that money. Finally, the money starts working for you. Eventually, the work performed by your money can exceed the work performed by your physical body. This is the definition of financial independence, the point at which your assets generate enough growth and income to cover your lifestyle without you ever having to trade another hour of your life for a paycheck. Education is the prerequisite for growth. You should never put your hard-earned savings into something you do not understand. Many people leap from saving nothing to gambling on high-risk moonshots because they are impatient. This usually results in losing the very capital they worked so hard to accumulate. Turning savings into growth requires a commitment to financial literacy. You must understand risk diversification and the time horizons of different asset classes. Your first investment should often be in your own mind, buying books, taking courses, and learning how the machinery of the global economy actually functions. Once you understand the rules of the game, you can deploy your capital with confidence rather than hope. Reinvestment is the final stage of this lesson. When your investments start to yield fruit in the form of dividends, interest, or rent, the temptation is to spend that fruit on a better lifestyle. However, the truly wealthy understand that the fastest way to grow is to take that fruit and plant it back into the ground. This is compounding on steroids. By reinvesting your gains, you are increasing the size of your money army. Each reinvested dollar is a new soldier working for your freedom. Over time, the growth becomes self-sustaining. The discipline of turning savings into growth is what transforms a person from someone who has money into someone who is truly wealthy, meaning they have the time and resources to live life on their own terms. Lesson 5. Control your desires. The ultimate battle for wealth is not fought in the marketplace or the bank. It is fought within the human heart. The fifth and most vital lesson is the mastery of desire. We live in a society designed by geniuses to make us feel inadequate, and then offer us products to cure that inadequacy. If you cannot control your impulses, no amount of income will ever be enough. There are people earning 7 figures a year who live paycheck to paycheck because their desires have scaled faster than their earnings. Discipline is the bridge between your current income and your future wealth. Without it, you are simply a high-volume conduit for money to pass through on its way to someone else's pocket. Desire is often a liar that confuses temporary pleasure with lasting happiness. We often buy things not because we need them, but because we are bored, stressed, or seeking social validation. The impulse buy is the greatest thief of your future freedom. To master this lesson, you must develop a cooling-off period for your desires. When you feel the burning urge to purchase something new, wait 24 hours or a week or a month. Often you will find that the intensity of the desire fades and you realize the purchase would have been a mistake. By introducing a gap between the stimulus of a want and the response of a buy, you reclaim your power as a rational actor. Controlling your desires also involves redefining what luxury means to you. For most people, luxury is defined by what they can show off to others: a brand name watch, a luxury car, or a designer handbag. For the person seeking wealth, the ultimate luxury is optionality, the ability to say no to a job they hate, the ability to travel when they want, and the ability to provide for their family without stress. When you weigh the temporary thrill of a consumer good against the permanent peace of financial security, the choice becomes clear. Discipline isn't about saying no to yourself, it's about saying yes to your future self. It's choosing what you want most over what you want now. Finally, mastering desire leads to a life of profound simplicity and focus. When you stop chasing every trend and trying to keep up with the neighbors, you free up an enormous amount of mental and emotional energy. You can focus that energy on your craft, your relationships, and your personal growth. Wealth is what you don't see. It's the cars not bought, the clothes not purchased, and the first-class tickets not booked. It is the quiet strength of knowing you have the resources to handle whatever life throws at you. By controlling your destiny through the control of your desires, you move from being a slave to your instincts to being the architect of your own freedom. You are no longer a consumer to be harvested, but a creator to be reckoned with. Building wealth is not about how much you earn. It is about how much you keep, protect, and grow. Small savings may look insignificant today, but over time they become the foundation of financial independence. The challenge is not mathematical, it is emotional. It is the ability to delay pleasure, to choose discipline over impulse, and to stay consistent when results are not yet visible. Jim Rohn often emphasized that success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Saving money is one of those disciplines. It is not about restriction but about direction, giving your future more importance than your present comfort. If you apply the lessons you've learned today, something subtle will begin to change. You will stop living paycheck to paycheck in your mind. You will start thinking like someone who is building something lasting. Your savings will no longer feel like loss but like power being stored. Wealth is not a single event. It is a slow construction project built with patience, repetition, and belief, and it always begins with something small that most people ignore. The question is not whether you can start big, but whether you are willing to start small and stay consistent long enough to see it grow into something extraordinary.